So if you guys are wondering, this is just one section of our multi-piece anvil. This is I believe this is 7-inch diameter. I got for free a while ago. This weighs like 130 pounds. And then we have that plate of steel back there, which you gotta de-rust, but Dad helped me bevel and flatten this side. This is the flatter side, so all I'm gonna do is just put a steep bevel because we got a lot of welding to do. And we want to make sure that we have a nice bevel around, so that way when we weld this to the plate and to that, we'll have a nice bond. But we're gonna have to do a lot of preheating when we do the welding. So AZ, you're funny. This isn't my job yet. I work security at a place. But, so, we got this frame. Obviously, round tubing is the best, but this is what I had at the time and still have, so that's why we got some C-channel. But, we got this half-inch plate, which we got to square up. But this is from Stompy. This is weighs like 156 pounds. That 7-inch diameter round piece of steel is like 130. That plate up there is like another like 30 or 40 pounds. Then we got this plate. So we're trying to make the anvil first, and then we'll be able to figure out. So the leaf spring is going to be welded, not welded, but there's going to be a bracket that'll get welded on this tube. But once we figure out the height of the anvil, then we'll be able to go from there. So the style of power hammer I'm going for is kind of inspired by Cody Ironworks. If you look up on Cody Ironworks' YouTube channel, he has a video where he shows his homemade power hammer that he like just slapped together, like he laid it out on his floor and then he made it. It's going to be like that. I'm trying to make a bigger one because I want to be able to forge bigger axes and hatchets and maybe Damascus. So that's what we're working on. And but we still got a lot of organizing to do in the shop. But we moved all the steel because we might be moving the forge and the tank. Luckily, because I made this forge stand, which you make sure you go check out that build video. I made it like 2 years ago, but I got a build video and build plans on how to make this. It's all bolted together so you can take it apart. Same thing with the forge. I gotta edit a video on how to turn the Venturi burner into a side blast forced air. But we're gonna bring these things inside, but I gotta undo the stuff. Well, there's a very good chance that this power hammer may or may not work, but you don't know if you don't try, so at least it'll be made in a way where if I need to modify it, I can. I'm just trying to get you guys situated so you can see me bringing that heavy-ass thing in. I just need to get some water real quick, and then we'll move that heavy thing. Yeah, I think this plate alone weighs like 30 pounds. And yeah, it is hardened, so I gotta be careful. I'm gonna preheat the crap out of everything before I Yeah, this thing will look kind of weird because the flange of the base of this, but that'll be fine. It'll actually make it kind of easier to move the anvil around. So wherever we're gonna have this power hammer, all these will be welded together onto that plate. That plate we'll have some brackets that'll bolt to the body of the power hammer, but the actual anvil plate, the whole thing, we're gonna figure out where we put this. We're gonna cut in the concrete and make a small footing, and with the support bolts, so that way the anvil itself will be bolted to that support and also be bolted to the power hammer frame. But that way, if we need to fix something or we need to move the power hammer, like if I eventually move to a bigger shop, we'll be able to remove the anvil. So before we do that, we gotta clean up that plate. So essentially making it so that the entire anvil assembly is attached to the power hammer body, but it's bolted. Similar to like a lot of like the old power hammers, they made it so that the anvil itself could be taken apart from the power hammer. That way, if you're trying to move it or fix it, it'll be a lot easier. At one point, this was my first welding thing. Obviously, it's been outside, so it's all rusty and crusty. But we're gonna clean up the surface. Luckily, we have this one flat edge, and we'll be able to see what we have to work with, and then try to cut up the edge and try to trim it up so that way we have a more even plate. Yeah, Zacho, the candle flexing, I think this person either is from my Instagram, because I got some rowdy people from my Instagram. It's funny shit. Before we do that, I want to measure this. So I'm trying to see if we can do a 1.5 by 1.5 maybe. And then there we got 16. Okay, so we got roughly 19 inches, the widest part. And we'll go. So we gotta square this edge up. So I'm gonna grab the other speed square. If you guys are wondering, one of the best places that you can get tools, used tools for a good price, is outdoor flea markets. The indoor ones have too much of that, overpriced antique crap. But the outdoor ones, you got a lot of people that do house cleanouts and estate sales. So they buy a bunch of stuff in bulk and they're just trying to get rid of stuff. I got this thing for a couple of bucks. This is like a really good, big old square. But luckily this plate has a good square edge, so we're going to use that to mark. And these Milwaukee markers, they're great. They do work on slightly dirty surfaces. Yeah, this plate's just slightly under 19 inches. So what we're going to do is, before we try to bothering cleaning this rust up, we're going to cut this section. And this plate steel, me and my dad, we actually made a machete for one of my dad's old co-workers, so we actually can forge something from this. This is some like medium / higher carbon road plates, because those things get put under like literal tons of force when cars drive over them. But before we do that, I gotta make sure we got enough cutting disc. Now for cutting discs, I found that the best deal locally I can get is you can get like a pack of 4 of these DeWalt 4-inch cutting discs from Tractor Supply. And these things last a long time. A while ago, when we went to the outdoor flea market, this guy bought an old hardware store, and he had a bunch of these cheap cutoff discs. And one of these DeWalt cutoff discs could outlast about 2 of those, maybe 3 of those, because they just didn't hold up. So even though they're more expensive, they actually are worth what they can do. So. Now, one of the things you can do if you got facial hair, because like a lot of these masks aren't designed for facial hair. That's why if you look at like World War One, a lot of soldiers had like goatees and mustaches. Um, if you got your mustache and beard a little bit wet, it'll make a better seal with your mask. Because the cutting discs give off a lot more dust. So
No one, Batman, you were born. I was born in the darkness. You want me to live? Sorry about that. I just had to set an alarm because I got work soon.
So, like an emo chick on a really bad day, we're going to be doing a lot of cutting. So, oh god. uh, as you see, I got this jacket from Salvation Army, but you can see it does not survive very well with the cutoff wheel. It burns through because the grinding wheel's facing towards you. So, if you look at my recent video on top 5 places where to buy knife steel, I put Blacksmith Depot on because they do have some blade steel, but they sell tongs, and this is like 40 bucks. This strap's not comfortable, but you got a nice flexible leather. Are you guys from my Instagram, all the crazy ones? I do appreciate you guys. My Instagram's kind of gonna be like a catch-all for all my goofy shit. But if you see, you can see where sparks have hit before, but it hasn't burned through. And you also see that's exactly where the hole in my jacket is. So this is a very good. This is worth 40 bucks.
Video. We're getting there.
This is kind of cool. I guess this plate of steel had a lot of tension in it. Come on, there we go. Look at how much that gap widened. I only cut 1/8 of an inch out of a material, but you can see how much tension this plate actually had. So it actually is flexing out. So that's pretty cool. Make sure you guys subscribe, because next week we're going to be doing we already hit like 2,000 subscribers, but we're going to do a giveaway for the new subscribers that we got. But this plate is slightly more than 1/2 inch. Is actually a good thing. So it's slightly more than 1/2 inch, or 14 millimeter. So now before we work on the other side, we're gonna deburr this piece and also this piece. But we can definitely forge like a machete or an orc sword out of this thing, because me and my dad have made a machete from the steel before. Always, when you're dealing with an angle grinder, unplug it so that way you don't risk accidentally turning the machine on and hurting yourself. But if you guys are wondering, this is not yet my full-time job. That's why I'm working on making a power hammer so I can actually make more products and videos and stuff. So if you want to support me, like, subscribe, watch my other videos. I have a build video on how to make your own gas forge and gas burner, which you can also use for a furnace or smelter. Hey Craig, how you doing? If you can do me a favor, because I know you do the scrap and stuff, if you happen to find anyone that's trying to get rid of like an old cast iron radiator, like the old school steam slash water radiators for like houses, like the old school ones, let me know, because me and Dad are working on getting we're gonna get one of those little VVOR diesel heaters. But I saw a cool modification. Yeah, Craig, if you're wondering why the comments are weird, I got a lot of people that came from my Instagram because I had some funny ass memes that I kind of did. But if you happen to know anyone that's trying to get rid of some cast iron radiators, I've watched some videos on people turning those diesel VVOR radiators and making them more efficient, because you lose a lot of heat through the exhaust, but people run the exhaust through the radiator and then out the building, so the radiator heats up from the exhaust, and then it of course is a heat sink. So not only is the machine blowing out hot air from the combustion, but the actual you're basically recycling the heat by heating up, using the exhaust to heat up the radiator. So if you can get one of those or know anyone that's getting rid of those, let me know. So thank you for joining the stream, and also go check out my video on where to buy blade steel websites. I got 5 of my favorite, or ones that I recommend. And but yeah, we get back to this. So right now, this is going to be this plate, which is like 0.56 or 14 millimeter. I'm cutting it. I'm squaring it up because the anvil is going to be removable from the power hammer, but we're going to weld all the anvil parts to the plate, and the plate will go on a. We're going to make a. Me and Dad are going to cut, because we got a demo saw. We're going to cut a small footing in the concrete. We got a couple of bags of concrete, but we're going to reinforce the floor. Make a reinforced concrete foundation, a couple feet thick. And I think we're going to use some. We got some dunnage, because I've seen people use dunnage or pieces of wood as like a shock absorber to help the power hammer. So we're going to do that, but this plate will distribute more of the force on a wider area, and because we're going to make it so that it's removable from the actual power hammer, when I eventually move to a bigger shop in the future, or I move in the future, we'll be able to take this apart and not struggle, because it's too long and funky of a power hammer. Because a lot of the old Beaudries and Little Giant power hammers, they had to remove their anvils, could be taken out or removed, so that way you have a lot less awkward of a thing to move. So we're gonna get back to it. Right now we're only gonna be able to do a little bit more cutting, because I gotta shower and get ready for work soon, but we're gonna cut a little bit more. Alright guys, so I'll do another live stream tomorrow. But this is the plate, so we got this side we got to cut, and then we got to square up this side. I'm going to try to make this an 18 by 18 inch square. We got the we got that anvil, that, and that plate. So that plate will be on the very bottom on the 1/2 inch plate, welded to. Then that will be welded to that, and then this will be welded on top of that. So that way, and then of course, because it's flat on the ground, the I-beam, we're going to have to undercut it just a little bit. But I got to get ready for work. I work night shift like 4 to midnight, so I'm going to thank you guys for watching the stream. Make sure you go check out, I recently uploaded a new video, a long form video. It's only 5 minutes. Go check that out. Leave a comment, like, do all that stuff. That'll help out the channel. And remember guys, be safe, have fun, and make some cool shit. Bye. See you next stream. Ah.